Do you feel that tipping culture is out of control in America? I know a lot of people do. But what if I told you it's one place where you have complete control? Hi, my name is Levi Spires. This is the Tip You in the App Daily Drive podcast. Today's Daily Drive podcast is brought to you by the Gig You app. So I'm an Uber driver. I've been doing it about 6 years, almost 15,000 rides. And sometimes with my friends, I get in this conversation about tipping and tipping culture. What I want to do is address maybe the 10 common complaints that I hear about tipping culture and go through them each one by one. So the first one I hear is that tipping culture is out of control. And I'm thinking to myself, like, actually tipping is the one place that gives you complete control. I'll give you two scenarios. You go to a fine dining restaurant and that server maybe doesn't refill your drinks, even though you keep asking for it. You don't have to tip. You could actually say zero tip for you, or maybe you can tip less. But if the server took all your orders, memorized everything, made some really great recommendations that you really appreciated, whatever it might be, made you laugh a little bit, maybe you tip more than what you thought you were going to tip. And the second scenario is this. And this is the one I think gets people really upset. They go to Subway sandwich shops, and they'll say, "Hey, here's what I want. I want the sandwich or whatever." And they get to the checkout, and the person, flips the tablet around, and then you feel insulted. Why are they asking me for a tip? Now, again, you have control. You don't have to tip if you don't want to tip. You don't have to be insulted either. It's an opportunity for a low-wage person to potentially make an extra dollar. And let's be honest, it's like tipping $1 on a Subway sandwich. It's not going to kill you, but it'll make their day. The second thing I hear is kind of aligned with that Subway sandwich kind of thing, is all they did was pour me a cup of coffee, kind of that tone. It says all that server did was like a very simple job, a job that maybe you or I could have done. Look at me. I'm an Uber driver. You probably drive a car, and you're like, all I do is drive a car. Why would I tip you for a thing that I can do? I think that's true with every service job. Service jobs are jobs that almost anyone can do. They're very low-paying jobs for the most part, and the quality of the service is really dictated by you, the consumer. You get to set the standard. And then if I meet or exceed your standard, whatever it might be, that's where you have the opportunity to tip. So yeah, all they did was pour you a cup of coffee, or all they did was drive you a car, or maybe all they did was bring you your food. But you paid for kind of a luxury service to some extent. And I'm using an Uber as a luxury service because you could have taken the bus, you could have walked, but you paid for an Uber. And you were pleasantly surprised and you were happy with that experience. The air conditioning, car clean, took a route that you wanted, maybe played the music that you liked, whatever it might be. Tipping $1 or $2 isn't really out of the question. The third thing I hear is something along the lines of like, well, in Europe, they don't tip. In Japan, in Australia, whatever, they don't tip. Okay, well, we're in America. This is kind of a unique American thing. Maybe the grander thing, maybe American culture of tipping should go away. But today, the truth is this. A lot of low-wage servers are hustling, working for tips. And that's just the experience. We're not in Europe. We're not in Japan. We're in America. Which kind of leads to that fourth thing is, why do I have to pay your wage? Newsflash. You as the consumer are paying everybody's wage. If you bought anything from anywhere, you are paying the wage. Who do you think's paying for it? The transaction goes from you, the consumer, to the owner, whoever that might be, through HR and the accounting system, to that person's paycheck. The tip is definitely something that servers, drivers, people like me, we're trying to earn. And I think this is a really neat accounting transaction. Let's just do some simple math here. Let's just say that you paid for something and it cost $10, hamburger, and I know they cost more or whatever. And then the tip potentially for a 10% tip would be $1. So your cost as a consumer, if it goes $10 for the burger and then you hand that person $1 in cash, it costs you $11. Now, let's just say that that tip is now included in the price of the hamburger. And so it's like forced gratuity. The price of the hamburger is not going to be $11. It's going to be $11 and some change. That was going to cover the cost of the transaction. Because see, a business owner and all businesses has a profit margin they're trying to maintain. They also have to pay different types of taxes on that revenue that they make. There's a lot of other parts to that transaction, fees, whatever it might be. So if the transaction goes 10 plus 1, it's $11. But if it goes 11 and no 1, it's actually going to be like $11.20. So number one, you are paying the wage. But number two thing is that if that wage is already included, it would actually cost you more money, i.e., you're losing control. Now, the next thing isn't really a complaint, but it's more about, I don't know, confusion. How much should I tip? You can tip a little, you can tip a lot, you can tip nothing. You got a lot of choice in that. And it's really a reflection of you than it is the service that's being provided. A lot of places will give you maybe ideas. I know a lot of times if you go back into the Uber app, it'll say 135 or maybe a percentage. But if it's a shorter ride and it's a pretty cheap ride, it'll be like $1 tip, $3 tip, $5 tip. Me as the Uber driver, I see it all the time. I do see $1 tips, $3 tips, and $5 tips. Honestly, I'm happy with all of it. If I get $1, I feel great. If I get $5, I feel great. It's a reflection that you recognized that I went over and above, met your expectations, whatever they might be, and you rewarded me with a tip. Honestly, only about 1 out of 3 of my Uber passengers even tips me. So if I get $1, it's better than nothing. So I'm normally pretty excited about it. But how much did you tip? Well, I don't know. There's a lot of options in there. I think if you're really wealthy and you were really blown away, I think, especially if you're famous, I think tipping a lot is a good thing. I think if you don't have a lot of money, but you needed to use the experience for whatever it is, then hey, even a $1 tip is better than nothing. Now, every situation is a little bit different. All I would ask you is maybe use some good judgment, i.e. some common sense. You can't go into a fine dining restaurant, charge up $1,000 bill, whatever it might be. And that person is probably hoping to get a $200 tip and you write $1. Great job. So you have to use some common sense in there. Now, some people will say something like 33% is too much. That's another complaint. Like all they did was pour me a cup of coffee and they flipped the tablet around and they're asking for 33%. I almost always, unless I'm insulted, I almost always tip the max now because I know the value that a high tip is. There are many times I tip 100%. Now, is 33% too much? Yeah, if you got bad service, I'd say 5% is too much. If it was really, really bad, tip $0. But if you were blown away and you have the means, I think tipping a lot is a good thing. It's a reflection of you. And it makes that server's day. Now, if you can't afford to tip that much, maybe A, don't go to that place, or B, tip what you can. And I think any gesture is a good and kind gesture. Then there's one complaint that I get, which is I can't afford to tip. Now, I'm 50, almost 52. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't have that many tipping opportunities in my week. I do go to Panera a lot. I get my car washed a lot. So maybe once a day. So when I go into Panera and I get a cup of coffee and maybe a bagel, I might tip $1. If I get my car washed and the guy driving the car, I tip $2, $3, whatever. But I don't go to a lot of restaurants. I don't go to a lot of fancy places where tips are part and are common because I can't afford them. I'm an Uber driver. And even if I could afford them, I just don't go to them that often. I think to myself, like, once I made the decision to go to one of those things, so yesterday, I went to the coffee shop with my granddaughter to get cookies, hot chocolate, and coffee. And we paid, I don't know, I think $12, $13, $14 for coffee. I think I tipped 20%. So 4 to 7, I don't remember. It was like $3, $4. That was the max that they asked for, 20%. But I went into that transaction knowing that they were going to ask for a tip, knowing that the max I'm going to probably have is like $20, to pay for all this. So I went into that transaction knowing that a tip is there. So I can't imagine going into any transaction where tips are normal or common and not being able to afford it. There might be the occasional, I had to order an emergency Uber and I can't afford a tip. But even, again, we're talking about $1. So if you can't afford $1, I don't know if I even believe that. Okay, this is a great, great complaint. And I totally understand it. It says, I hate tipping before the service has been even given. I'm going to give you 2 answers to this. I understand, for sure. Why tip for service? And then imagine giving somebody $5 or a $10 tip, and then the service is bad. You feel like you've wasted that $5 or $10. 2 answers to that. First, what if you set the stage? Now, I've done this a few times in my life where I pre-tip. In fact, I do it every time I go to the car wash. Every time I go through the car wash, before they drive my car, I hand them the tip. Because they're going to drive my car. It's not like it's going to be, it's cold outside, they're drying cars. Here's $2 or $3. Thank you. And then I roll the window up and I pre-tip. I set the stage, so they know what they're going to get. The other day I went out to, I think 2 weeks ago, Zeke and I, my friend Zeke, we went to a diner. We were going to sit there for maybe an hour or two. So I just I handed the waitress $20 before we even ordered, say, listen, we're going to take this table for a little while. Is it okay? And I just gave her $20 as a tip ahead of time. I set the standard ahead. But now there are other situations. You're probably thinking like for DoorDash or Uber Eats or things like that. I would say a tip is more like a bid. You're trying to incentivize a bunch of drivers sitting out parked, looking at all these orders coming in, which trip they want to take. So when you order and you pre-tip, the driver goes, oh, that's a big order. I'm going to take that one. We see them all the time, $2 orders, $1 orders. And we're like, I'm never going to take those because I know there's no tip to it. And I don't know if I'm going to earn a tip. But if I see a $10 order, then I know, oh, there was a tip applied. I'm like, I'm going to take, because that's a big tip. So there's 2 types of pre-tips. There's one where you can kind of set the tone and like ask for a favor ahead of. I've had it many times where people ask me to stop as an Uber driver. They want to stop and pick up cigarettes. If they hand me a $5 bill, I'd stop for an hour. I do whatever they want. But they're not tipping. They're literally bidding and paying for a service ahead of time. Now, the final thing though is it's not even a complaint. It's just a common thing that I hear. I never tip. I don't believe in tipping culture. I don't want to tip. I'm not going to do it. And I understand that. Hey, if you don't want to do something, it's really frustrating when people put you in a situation where you don't want to do it. And I understand. But I think if you plan on going and getting a service, but not tipping, but you know that's a tipping situation, it's fair. It would be honest if you were to tell that person you're not going to tip them ahead of time. The restaurant situation. You going to a restaurant, you're going to run up a $500 bill, but you don't believe in tipping. Fair. Nope. Fair. Don't do it. But don't pretend and make that waiter or waitress believe that they have the chance to earn a tip. They're going to go over and above. They're going to work really hard, and they think, hey, this person might tip me. If you're not going to tip, just tell them. Say, hey, when you sit down, hey, waiter, just let you know, I don't believe in tipping, so I'm not going to tip you. Because now the waiter or waitress might treat you differently. And that's proof that tipping is what it is, that the waiter or waitress is putting on a show, the driver, whoever, all the service workers, we're doing a very simple task, but we're putting on a show. We're trying to entertain, help, assist, whatever it might be, make you comfortable, happy, satisfied based on your individual standards, whatever they might be, in hopes to earn a tip. So if you don't believe in tipping, just have the courage, the guts to go into that restaurant or wherever and just say, hey, just a heads up, I don't believe in tipping. Now, I've never had that happen. 15,000 rides as an Uber driver. That being said, if somebody went into my car and just did that, I'd respect it. I'd still treat them the best that I can because I want to please. I'm a people pleaser to some extent. Now, I'm not saying all Uber drivers are going to do that. Some Uber drivers would be like, well, you're not going to tip me? Light up a cigarette. I don't know what they do in their car, but they're like, well, if you're not going to tip me, you're going to get the bare bones minimum. Roll the windows down, turn the AC off. In fact, I heard in India, correct me if I'm wrong, in India, the Uber drivers, if they're not going to get a tip, they don't turn on the AC. I don't know if that's true or not. But obviously, you're never going to do that if you're not a tipper because you know that person, whoever's serving you, is trying to earn a tip. So they're doing something different than just bringing you your food or just driving a car. They're trying to do something a little bit different, trying to read the room, trying to meet whatever standards you have in order to earn a tip. I don't know. So did I change your mind at least a little bit? Did I make at least a couple of compelling cases for tipping? Hey, I think you should do what you want to do. If you don't want to tip, don't tip. If you want to tip, tip. There's no wrong answer in there. I think just being honest about it. So let me know your thoughts. Drivers, Uber drivers, my fellow drivers, I hope that 2026 is a great year for you. I hope that not only you earn as much money as possible, that you're safe and that you're healthy and that you're happy, but I just want you to enjoy the ride. Now, I know for me, last year, I got really burned out by it all. And I'm hoping that this year makes me not only, again, make money, but that I like Uber driving, that I turn the app on with a smile. My name is Levi Spires. Drivers, I want you to know that I'm cheering for you. Be well. Bye.